Hey, I'm Yves. Welcome back to my workshop again. I've been out for a while. I hurt my back and then I got sick, but I'm back. I'm going to finish the knife. For that, I figured I'd do a little tour of the back room of my workshop. So, a little printer farm we got going on over here. Right now it's not doing anything, but I got a Soval SV08. This thing has a build volume of, I believe, 355 by 355 by 400. Not exact. I don't actually remember. And then I got Bamboo P1S, fantastic machine. Got the AMS on top of it, and I got a filament dryer. And over on this side, I got a small little resin printer and a wash and cure station. This thing is one of the original Photon Anycubic photons. It works. The features are really outdated by now, but I still use it. It still works fantastically. And then over on this side, we have my wife's soap making setup. So everything she does, currently she's got a couple of bars curing. The entire workshop just smells fantastic. It's incredible. She is a very talented lady. Incredible stuff. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the knife. I'm going to heat up the workshop a little bit, turn the forge on so that I don't freeze, because it is currently snowing outside. And I think like -7 or something like that. Yeah, so we're gonna do the rest of the knife, and then we're gonna be sending it off. So I've got a new overhead set up, so you'll be able to see the grinding and everything else like that. So we'll see you in a bit. All right, I'm gonna just clean up a little bit in here before we get going. I've got a lovely Deadpool popcorn bucket that I 3D printed. It's nothing to do with the project, but it is fantastic. All right, here we go on another trip. I was sick last week, and then I hurt my back really badly the week before, so I wasn't able to do anything for a couple weeks, but now I'm back, and I'm able to go back in the forge and actually do stuff again. Right there, you can see I've just got a little carving tip on that Dremel, and carving out those shoulders, trying to make it a little bit more even. I've got a new overhead filming rig, so I can actually put it right above so you can see what I'm doing. I tried it out this video. I tried to do most of it. And I'm just marking the lines. I realized that the black side is actually too dark to actually show up in pencil, so let's put it on the red so I can actually see what the hell's going on. And then I thought I edited this. There we go. Just getting everything ready, getting the little sander, putting on some music. Now, I could have actually put the handle all the way through, or maybe just like sandwiched it and then carved it, but I find that this gets a much nicer finish on the end of it, because then you actually have a hidden handle. This is called a hidden tang. The tang goes all the way through the end of the handle, and you don't see it, so that's why it's called hidden. Pretty simple. A lot of blacksmithing terms are just really obvious things. So what I've got there is a little stick rotary sander. It's basically the exact same width as that handle, so that's why I use it. I try to keep most of my handles that exact same width. Some I make bigger, then I don't need to do this sort of thing, but for the ones that I try to make hidden, I do it exactly like this. I realized that the sanding was awful, so I had to fix and replace that sanding belt. Struggled with it for a little while because it's been a while since I've actually replaced that sanding belt, so I couldn't figure out how the hell to actually make it pop back out and be like solid. But I did eventually figure it out. I tried screwing things. But then I realized there's a button hidden right in that side there, and then you just push it and it works. And then the sanding goes real easy. Those handles are micarta. They're plastic, or no, it's not plastic, wood infused with resin, I believe. So they're a mix of like plastic and wood. It sands down really easy, really nicely, and it leaves layers of red and black. So you get this really nice like ripple effect on the handle as you shape it and everything. I love these handles. I've got like a dozen sets just ready to use. They're really pretty. I spend an obscene amount of time trying to do this. Like I spent like an hour almost just doing this. Not an hour, but a while. I'm just going in there with my little carving sander, trying to get just a little bit of an edge in there because it was a little spot that wasn't big enough. And here we are back at the drill, or not the drill, the grinder. The handle was a little bit not the right size, so I just had to shave it down a tiny, tiny bit, but it didn't take very long. Man, you see a lot of sparks. Sparks are pretty. I'm just rambling on. I have no clue what I'm talking about. I'm still an amateur blacksmith. I just kind of say what's coming to mind. I have no clue really what I'm doing most of the time. I'm just kind of going by what I feel and how it looks. And then just trying my best to make it look really nice. Yeah, shaving down that little handle a little bit more so it fits in better. Making sure it's nice and smooth and all the rust is taken off there before I go any further. Because you don't want to have rust that interferes with all of the gluing and everything like that. Here I'm putting little grooves into that handle again just to make it a little bit easier to hold. It also helps with keeping the resin into the actual knife. You just put a little bit of an edge there for it to grip on and seep into so that when you actually resin the handle into the knife scales, it doesn't, or the handle scales, it doesn't actually slip out. I've never had any issues with the epoxy failing when you shove the handle in there, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. And here I am here just filing it down a little bit more, getting that edge a little thinner. It was still a bit too thick. There was also a little bit of a warp that I got in there from when I heat treated it and hardened it. So I'm just getting that little warp out of there. You'll see I'm focusing mostly on two spots. You do want to make that grind even, so you got to go back and forth a little bit just to make sure that there's no obvious lines, but there's two spots that were just a little bit warped, so I just had to grind those down. Every time I put it down on that little shelf there, I'm just checking both sides, seeing where the actual bend is so that I can grind down the spot and get it nice and flat. One thing that they don't tell you about grinding metal like this is that little sparks that you see go around there, those are all little metal shavings and they do get everywhere. So you absolutely need a ventilator, something to protect your lungs. And even with that, I still get little metal fibers stuck into my nose. It's just awful. The bucket of water that I've got underneath it does tend to help it, but it's not the it's not 100% proof, but usually I have the door open behind me. The workshop's got a huge garage door, and I do it right outside, right by the door, so that most of those filings don't go flying around. But it was cold that morning, so I just had on my full face mask so that I wasn't breathing any of it in. You'll see I'm putting that glove on because it is getting wet and slippery. This way, I don't need to actually worry about my hands getting cold or anything like that. It still happens because it is quite chilly in that workshop, but it does help. I also realized that running the forge to heat up my workshop is probably not a very efficient way of heating that place. It's pretty big space. So I got myself a wall heater. I might make a video about putting it up, I don't know. But either way, it's way better than having to waste all my propane just heating the workshop, although it does heat it very quickly. It's cold enough in there. It's not heated, but it is insulated, so it does help keep that cool out. I'm working on the other side. I think I've almost got it down to a spot where I'm happy. One of the things that you want to watch out for is once you start grinding it thinner, it becomes very easy to burn that metal and make that spot unusable. It's because as it gets thinner, that heat just kind of soaks into everything that touches the metal. That is a really cool shot. I like seeing that. I hope you guys do too. These have been really fun, just documenting my journey and letting everyone see. It also helps me learn too, because then I can see everything that I've done wrong, what I've done right, what I want to improve on, what I think I'm, good at. So it is pretty nice. All right, so right here, I'm satisfied with it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking out the 36 grit belt and putting in a 60. And I do that with all of my knives. I go from 36 all the way to the highest is 1200 grit. It helps give it a nice even finish. You'll see me changing it a lot, but it does go pretty quickly because I'm just doing the last little bits of finishing here. I don't know how you guys are enjoying this overhead shot. Do you prefer seeing a mix of the two, just the one? It's just me, so anything I have to do it myself. It's starting to look pretty nice. Getting that nice little sheen on. I noticed that as I was going up the grid, I missed a little spot when I was on the 36, so I had to kind of get it again. And it does happen. There's some little low spots that you get while making a knife, and it's some people can get them like perfectly, fantastically clean and shiny. I'm not good enough to do that yet, so I tend to hide it. I've got a little gun glue that I use to make the knives. I have a little oxide coating on it. It's food safe. It's perfectly fine. And it looks nice and hides most of those imperfections. One of the things you may not know about blacksmithing, those little metal filings are really irritating. So you'll notice that I'm not wearing any protective footwear this time, and that was a mistake. So all those metal filings got all in my socks, they got all against my foot, and it was a pain in the ass. It was super, super rough. It made it incredibly itchy even after I got all of it off. If you got sensitive skin, make sure you have something that covers your feet the entire time. I switched it off to, I think from the 60, I go to an 80 grit and then 100. And then from there, it goes 160, 240, 360, and then 400. And then after the 400, it goes up to 600, 800, 1,000, and then 1,200, I believe. I'm not there in the workshop, so I can't really tell. But it goes pretty quick. That knife is looking pretty nice and smooth. I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm switching it off again to the next belt and going from there. Now this machine is a belt grinder from a place called Nexus Grinders. They're a Canadian company that make these in-house. They can buy a kit for them. I think it costs 1,200 Canadian for the entire thing. I'm not entirely sure what it was, but it was around that price. And it's just a single phase motor, which means there's no variable speeds. It just goes as fast as it goes. But it is a beast. I've been able to bear down on that without the motor stalling or getting stuck or anything like that, even slowing down. It is fantastic. So if anyone's ever interested in a belt grinder like that, go and check them out. They are fantastic. So right there, I'm testing that first little cut. That edge is nice. It's cutting through a piece of paper real easily. And now I'm going up to the really high grits. I think this one is the 800. And you'll see the sparks kind of stop because it's so thin. There's so much grit there. It is so fine that it is just polishing it basically. You can still screw it up. If you get the edge on it, it will destroy that edge a little bit. But as long as you're careful, it does keep it mostly happy. I'm not always careful. I do tend to go a little too fast, not pay attention enough, and destroy some of the work that I've done. But I'm getting better at it. During the course of this sharpening and grinding, I did screw up that edge a little bit, so I did have to fix it. One of the hazards of going up to this high of a grit when you're grinding is that you can absolutely destroy that edge, and you have to remake it all. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that. It just got a little bit screwed up, so I managed to fix it, I think. It affects the profile of the knife a tiny bit, but not too much. So I'm still pretty happy with it. I think it's all right. It looks pretty nice, for now anyways. Once the handle's done, we'll see how much nicer it really looks. But man, look at that shine. It is polished, and even though you can still see some scratches, you won't in the final product. I am doing everything I can to make sure it looks like a fantastic kitchen knife. Now look at that. It's nice and shiny. The edge profile was a little bit off, but it wasn't too bad. It's still very usable. The final last couple of grits are just really just there for polishing. They don't even take out any material whatsoever, but it makes it very shiny. And now I'm just going there with a little bit of a sanding. I don't even know what they're called. The little foam. It's like a 1600 grit little foam, just getting the last little bit off. I could go even higher if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. So, and now we get to play a fun little game of is my epoxy awful or does it work? Spoiler alert, it does not work. I tried everything I could. There was a little bit of fresh stuff at the bottom, but it was awful. It would just come out in globs. You can see here, I was ready to glue that handle in, ready to finish off the knife, but it just didn't work out. I ordered some new resin. It'll be here eventually, and then I'll upload another video finishing that off. But for now, you get to enjoy my struggling at trying to get resin out and failing horribly.